Hello everyone, welcome to my tutorial today. Our objective today is to understand how the aging can be done more efficiently. Aging is required for organization to identify key areas or key attributes which need to be focused on. Let's say for accounts payable, if anything is aged more than a certain day, it may call a legal liability or claim for a vendor to the organization. So it is always a management objective is to understand and resolve the open line items which are aged for a certain period. Open line items are because of multiple factors. One of them is due to master data mismatch or tax related information mismatch. Because of that, the line items are kept open and they cannot be cleared. So aging is a efficient tool and it is a good metrics for for management to evaluate which are the key focus area they need to achieve. So today we have a data here which is vendor data. So we have sets of vendor, quite a few. Then we have bill numbers associated with that. We have billing date ranging up to 2014, and we have the days. We don't have anything on Sunday. That is good here. So our objective is to know that as on today, what is the aging of this line item, so we can focus on the major areas or critical aspect which are greater than certain age. So one of the criteria for this is to evaluate and put them into aging into this bracket. So 0 to 30 days, 31 to 60 days, 61 to 90 days, 91 and so forth. One of the traditional way what is done is using a if formula. So we have nested if formula where we can keep on adding between the range and we can give a formula of and along with the if, so it can tell us if it meets the criteria, then it gives us certain age and it creates the bracket. Uh, and it is quite a lengthy exercise, and I'll show you both what is the process using VLOOKUP and what is the process using the formula. So to achieve that objective, we need to have a aging date. So we'll have it aging date here, aging date, which is let's say today's date. Mm, And what we are going to do, we are going to count the days from here. So this is day. So if you see some of them are negative, they are one of the line item is more than it is the future period. So those credit line item seems to be a data error or the baseline billing date is not correct in this case. So we'll ignore them as of now. So what we are going to do, we are going to try the aging formula uh, using using the traditional method of if formula. So what we are going to say here is that if this day, and before that we have to give and uh, this date is greater than or equal to 0, and this date again is less than equal to 30. This closes the AND condition. Then we want the data what need to be there. So the result will be 0 to 30 days. 30 days. If this condition does not meet, then we have to go for another condition. So what we are going to do as of now, we are going to close it and see if the formula works properly or not. If you see, so I have given two ampersands, two inverted commas here. So this represents a blank. If you don't give blank, it will come something like 0, or it will come as a false. So I like to have it as a blank, so I know it is it is working properly. So if you see, I'm getting the data here. So wherever it is, let me drag the formula entirely. So let me filter it out here. So I get this many line item which are meeting the 30 days criteria. Now similar way, what we have to do, we have to copy this formula from here and paste it here. And we again have to change the days here. So we have to change from 31 because we have already captured 30 here because it is inclusive, and then we have to give 60 and we have to change it to 31 to 60 days, and you enter it here, paste the formula. You will see now second criteria is also available. So anything within 30 and 60 days it will be available. Again, what you have to do, again you have to copy the same formula here and paste it again here at just after the comma. So that way what happens is that you ensure that you're doing the correct nesting, and we'll have 61 here and 180 here. We'll again have to change it to 60 to 61 to 180 days. Then put a comma here, and this formula works for you. Instead of typing it out, what you can do, so let us see what is the result of 60 to 180 days. So you see this many cases which are more than 60, which are from 61 days to 180 days and more than this one. So instead of typing, what else we can do, we can give it as a reference. So let's say this data which is 0 to 30 days, we can give a reference to the cell. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete, and I am going to give a reference to this cell here. So when I give the reference to this cell, I need to freeze the cell. So how it happens is that if it moves downwards, the cell reference keeps on changing. So what I'll do, I'll put dollar sign before K and 3. So what you see it here. So this makes it constant there. So and always the reference will be there. And similarly, what we can do, we can go here and change it for the other one also. So we can go here, again give a reference, freeze it, then enter, then again we can go and do the same thing here. Now you drag the formula, it works the same way. So you have the data here, but the change only in this formula is that it gives the reference there. So if you change it here, let's say 61 to 90 days, I want to make it as 120 to 280 days, which is incorrect, but only for the example, 129 days. So if you see, the formula changes here. So the data is dynamic. So now the challenge with this formula, or I will say the disadvantage of this formula is that if you are doing regularly on the same file, it is easy because you have to define one time the formula, and you can just copy and replicate, and giving a reference to a cells need to be always present in the file because it will refer to the respective cell. So a lot of organization, what they do, they hard code it, they enter it by within the double quotes, and it is a, like a text field, and then they achieve the objective. So this is one of the way where organizations are using. The only challenge here is that in case this range changes, let's say I need to have a aging for 10 days gaps. So I need to have 0 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 30. Then again I have to redo the entire thing. I have to go back, change all the attribute, and if you see the frequency reduces, number of ifs will increase. So as of now, based on this formula, we'll be putting somewhere between 7 nested ifs. So which is, you can see we have till 4 here, three of them. And again you have to use lot of formula, and it is always challenging if you make any mistake how to debug the formula. So that is one of the challenging aspect comes along this formula. So this is one way which majority of the organization or majority of the teams are using. I'll tell you another way, which is using a VLOOKUP formula. Uh, VLOOKUP formula is a very useful formula in wherever you're working with Excel. It has its own challenges in terms of data consistency or the way data is structured. I'll cover that in later portion, and I already have a video. I'll provide you the link. What are the challenges and how VLOOKUP formula need to be worked on, so it is always effective and it gives correct data. So what I'm going to show you that I have one another Excel file which is this. So I'll explain you the file. It is I call it as a utility file. So utility file, it is always available with me. It is easily accessible. I just save it at is uh, in the favorite listing in Excel. So you can go here, you can go to file, and you can go to open, and here you can see the utility. You just click it here and it will always be available. So whenever you want to open, just open and go to utility and it will open up the file. So I'll explain you the file. This is nothing but a aging table. What I have done here is that I have given the days here. So if you see, I have all the days here, which is up to 2000 days. So anyway, aging, most of them are up to 720 days or 700 days or more than 365 days. So depending on the nature, what I have done, so if you see up to 30, I have category as with sequence. So I'll tell you what is the advantage of sequence later, but for understanding, let us say that the first sequence, which is A, is 0 to 30 days. So if you see up to 30, it is 0 to 30 days. After 31, it becomes 31 to 60 and so forth. So if you see, I have another category here in column C, which is 0 to 30 days, which do not have a sequence here. Similarly, I have aging for 10 days here, which is sequence and without sequence. And similarly, I can have multiple aging based on my requirement. Now, to achieve the objective, what we have to do, we'll go back to the file here. VLOOKUP, if it does not get any data, uh, it shows as a value or it shows as a NA. So if in case it is not able to find the data, it will show as a NA. So if you see, the first aging is -1. That means this invoice is not yet due. And if you see in days, I don't have anything as a -1. So I have 0. So whenever I will apply VLOOKUP, I will get a error. It is called NA error. So let us work on this one. So what I will do a VLOOKUP of this data. I'll go back to this file and select the aging bracket of the first one with a standard sequence. And what I will do, I will press Control space bar, so it will select the entire column. I will press put value to, because I require the second column data based on the first column reference. So that is A. Then 2, then comma 0. I need the absolute value and I will close this bracket. So if you see, I get a NA here. So now I know this anything negative in this case is not due yet. So it is 0 for me. So for the aging for that will be 0 to 30 days. So now let's see what this formula does. So we'll go back to the end of this page, end of this line, and what we'll do, we'll drag this formula out. So if you can see, other than negative line item, it produces the same result. But here the data is different. If you see, we have 61 to 90 days. Maybe it is a formula error. So, okay, we have not changed the days here because this same reference is there. Okay, so ideally, within 144 to 180 days based on our case. So if we see as 144 days here, so it is correctly aged to 91 to 180 days. So this is one of the advantage, because while you're defining the formula, you can go wrong. You may give a wrong reference to something, and because of that the data changes. And if you see it here, it should have been more than 180 days. Okay, 61 to 80 days, so it should have been 90 days here instead of 180 days. So this is one of the advantage of this formula. And second thing, if you have a NA here, what you can do, you can just put another formula. It's called if error. Then what you can do, you can define what need to be there. So if error, how the formula works is that in case VLOOKUP comes up with a error, it replaces with a value or it replaces with a new formula. But here I am not going to achieve that. I am not going to do that. What I need to achieve here is that if this line item is less than 0, then I need to have a aging of 0 to 30 days. So what I am going to do, I am going to put a if formula here, if, and I am going to give a reference to this cell. I am saying if this column E line 5 is less than 0, then give me, then I need the value a dot 0 to 30 days. We need to have the same wording as in the other line, otherwise whenever we are working with pivot or other data, it will not work properly. Then we apply this formula. So if you see, this is one negative and you still have this formula here. Now if you drag this entire formula, so what you will see, all the negative line items are marked with 0 to 30 days. So means they are not yet due. Let us see the data. Number filter less than 0. If you see, all are correctly marked as 0 to 30 days. So this is one of the advantage of this formula. Similarly, let's say you have anything more than 2000 days. So as I mentioned, if you see this file, you have only 2000 as a line item. So up to 2000 days it comes into here. So what if you have something of 2001 or 2000 more than that? Again, VLOOKUP will go for a error. So if you go here, if you see, do we have anything? Let us check. Anything on that label? No, we don't have anything. But in case you do have anything which is more than certain this days, then what you can do, you can add another formula which will say if, again give the reference of the cell, is greater than 2000, then you need to have aging as g dot above 720 days, and then you continue with the VLOOKUP formula. So how it happens is that, let us say you we have the revised formula here, and this is the non-revised formula. But if you put it around 2500 days here, you see it is a NA. But if you just copy this formula and paste it here, it automatically corrects it. So this is the advantage of this formula. So one of few things what we need to understand here is that what I have done. So let me explain you the details how it works. So let me remove the first part, which is regarding non-VLOOKUP. So in the VLOOKUP, what we are doing is that we are looking the days here from the sheet utility, which is in a separate sheet, and we are bringing the desired column. This way what happens is that it modifies it, it looks for 507 and it brings the related corresponding data associated with this. So now let's say we need to have the 10-day aging here. So what we'll do, we'll do the same thing. We'll do a VLOOKUP. Again, it will go for an error. Go to this sheet, look for 10 days aging, and if you see, we get the data correctly here. Again, for the first one, which is incorrect, like which is not yet due, I won't say incorrect. Then we'll put it if it is less than 0, then not aged, not due. So you need to have less than, not due. So this way what happens is that it takes into the correct aging aspect of it. So another important thing is that what is the difference between having the aging starting with A and aging starting without A. So what happens is that uh, management requires the information to be available based on the starting with numeric, and sometime what it requires that for reporting purpose they need to have the in the sequence. So in the sequences basically 0 to 30, 31 to 60 and so forward, so on so forward. So the thing is that if you create a pivot table out of this, so let me create a pivot here. I'm going to create a pivot table which is in a new sheet here, and if I bring the aging bracket, not this one, with the VLOOKUP formula, if you see the sequence comes correct, 0 to 30, 31 to 60, 61. So that way what happens is that my data is presented properly. And if I need to have 720 on top of this, then I can sort it up and I can say that, okay, give me descending numbers. So now let's see what happens if we change the data based on the other condition, like without having this uh, starting with A, B, C, D. So we need to have a reference to column C. So what I'm going to do, I'm quickly going to change the reference of this column. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change it to C because I need to have the additional. How you can do quickly. So this is column A, this is column B. So these two column we previously referred. Now we'll be referring A, B, and C. So because we require the third data, so we have to change the range up to C and then select the data which is from C. So what I am going to do, I am not going to reapply the formula. What I am going to do, I am going to change it here, make it C and make it 3. So that way what happens? It should look into the correct data. And if you see it is uh, the the data have not changed. The data have not changed because it is meeting the first criteria. Because I am saying that if it is less than 1, it should be 0 to 30 days. But now I have to change it and remove the dot .a to sync it with the remaining data. And what I'll do, I will just drag this formula, and while I do that, let me do it for G also, which is more than 720 days. Now if I drag this formula, I get this data here. Let's see how it looks after creating a pivot table. So I'm going to create a pivot table. I'm going to put it adjacent to the existing one so you can compare the data and see. If we put the VLOOKUP formula and refresh it, I get a in proper sequence. I get a sequence of 0 to 31st, 90 to 180 days here, 361 to 720 days, and so this data is not in sync, it is not aligned properly. Even if I want to sort it, it will not come properly. So it will always go for the way the number sequences are defined and how it is how it is looked into from the point of view of Excel. So this is the advantage of using VLOOKUP formula for doing aging, and this is very effective. In case you want to change any data, you need to have a dynamic flow, or you need to have a uh, aging day which is changing based on your requirement or your management reporting requirement. This is the process which is very effective, what you can utilize, and you can achieve the objective. So one of the important thing what we need to understand in using this VLOOKUP formula, that the range need to be always fixed. If you don't fix the range, it will not give the correct data. And you need to always have a absolute result here, which is denoted by 0. So this is one important thing what you need to keep in mind. uh, Rather than defining the formula greater than equal to, I think this formula is quite effective to include and exclude the beyond the parameter like more than 2000. You just have to use two if formula rather than using 7 or 8 of them, and chances of errors are extremely less. Second advantage of this process is that it is not depending on this file. What it does is that it can work on any of the file, whatever wherever you are doing aging. So if you have a profile which is like a financial analyst, or which is of auditor who always deals with multiple data from multiple sources, multiple teams which do not have consistency in the process, you can use this formula as a standard one for your analysis. And I'll tell you another advantage what you can do. So we have already worked on this formula, and we know, okay, this is the way it works and this is the data what we require. So let me revert to the previous change, so that will help me achieve the objective. So what I will do, I'll have this formula here, which is nothing but this. I will uh, put press F2, which will go into edit mode. I will copy this here. I will go to this file and paste it here. And what I will do, I will add a space before it. So what it happens is that I can see the entire length of formula. So what I can write it here, I can say this is the formula for, okay, let me change the formula. It is not correct till now. We need to have 2 as a sequence because we were looking with A, B, C, D. So now this is the correct formula it should be looking for. I will have this formula replaced here with a space, and what will happen I'll tell you, and I'll mark it so I can identify it as a standard aging, because you don't want to go back again and again and understand how the formula works and then identify which is standard and non-standard. So let's say I have a similar sheet which is again I am going to use. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a replicate of this file. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a new workbook of the same data, and I'll I'll have this as a uh, let's say I don't have this column here, so I don't have any of them, and this is the raw data or new data I have received. So I need to have the aging here, aging bracket. So now what I can do here is that I can just go copy this and paste it here and remove the space before it. So what happens? It changes the formula accordingly. So what I don't have to do again and again is that I don't have to go back and redo the formula and just copy paste this data and my aging is complete. This is just as easy as possible. Here what you have to do, you don't have to look for the old file and anything, because as I mentioned, this will be a utility tab. You can keep on adding multiple utility stuff regarding Excel into the same workbook. And what you can do, you can just copy this formula, paste it beside here, beside the days, and then just remove the space before it. So what happens is that it ensures that your references are correct. So if you see, this aging bracket is always looking from days, and days is just adjacent to the aging bracket. As long you ensure that this is there, it will work. So let's say what happens if you have multiple data and you're not able, and you paste it somewhere else. It is as easy to customize. So what we'll do, we'll go here, change it here, and if you see the data, wherever you're keying in the details, it will always be correct. But what if your column E, let's say your data have changed from column E and it is going to column G. Now if you paste the data, I'm going to delete it. I'm going to copy this entire thing. I'm going to paste it here. So if you see, it is giving a incorrect reference here. It is giving reference to column E, but I have a data in column G. So what I have to do, I just have to drag it here, all the three cells, and I'm again good to go. So once you have this understanding that how the data flows and how the things are moving, it is always easy. And in case you have big data, like in case you have more, you're planning to have more than 2000 line item, what I will recommend, you give, you don't give the reference of entire column A and C, which is here. Rather, you can give a reference to column for the related cells. So what you can do, you can give up to 2000 or 3000 or whatever the line items you have. It is a standard application of VLOOKUP formula. So that way what happens is that you reduce the size of the formula or the capacity which is required to be utilized. Rest process remains the same. You can use the same index formula also to achieve this objective. Index formula is quite light in this in comparison to VLOOKUP, and that is how this entire process works. So conceptually, it is quite easy. Once you understand the process, it is extremely easy to apply, and it can save a lot of time, lot of error debugging, lot of formula debugging, and you can really achieve good time saving. So hope you like this video. Feel free to let me know in case you want to add something, if I missed out something, and let me know if you require any help. The details will be available in comment section. You can reach out to me, you can drop me a mail, or you can express your view through comment, how you feel about this video. Hope you'll be putting this into use. Best of luck. Take care. Bye.